Okay, if I could encourage those leaving the public gallery to do so as quickly and as quietly as possible, as well as those who are leaving the chamber to do likewise, as we move on to the next item of business, which is a members' business debate on motion 18469 in the name of Emma Roddick on Growing Together programme success. The debate will be concluded without any questions being put. I'd again ask those leaving the public gallery to do so quietly. Thank you. I'd invite members wishing to participate in the debate to press the request to speak buttons. I invite Emma Roddick to open the debate around 7 minutes. Ms Roddick.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm unusually nervous today because I'm just so incredibly glad to have the opportunity to speak about Growing Together and share with colleagues, with government and with anyone else listening why engaging with this organisation amongst the thousands of meetings that we have as MSPs is one of those that I will always remember really clearly. And colleagues will know the ones I mean, the ones that you remember because they really made you feel something. Growing Together works with young people experiencing or at risk of poverty, mental health issues and adverse childhood experiences, intervening to support those young people to mentor nursery children and take on leadership roles in their communities, consulting with community members and developing youth-led initiatives. Right now they are working in and around the Murray Firth and across Aberdeen. When Gavin Morgan of Growing Together reached out to me last year, I could tell that there was something really special about what the nursery programme is doing. Gavin is so passionate. There's no other way to say it. He loves what he does and he loves seeing the results of his work. When I told him that we'd finally secured a debate spot for this motion, I asked him if there was anything new that he wanted to share with me since we last spoke. He sent me 10 bullet points, 2 PDFs and a video. I will circulate that video to colleagues after this debate because, of course, the reason that this works is the willingness of the young people who take part, and their reflections are so special. I could stand here and quote them all, but you really need to hear it from them, so I'll just share one that I think sums it up for me. I finally feel I am okay as a person. I thought everyone else was better than me. Many young people who grow up with trauma or poverty are led to believe that they're not special, that there's nothing more for them in life, that they can't offer anything to the world but anger, and that there's really no point in trying. I know because I've felt that, and it takes a lot of internal work to undo that complex belief system and a lot of effort from those kind adults who want to convince you that it's worth giving it a go. When I was in school, I was paired with a couple of nursery boys to mentor, and I remember being really nervous about that. I didn't like boys. I grew up in an all-female household, and to me, boys were mean, they hit you, and they cared about Glasgow football teams for some reason. But answering these wee boys' questions, teaching them about the world of big school, and watching them explore everything, made me realise what I had learned so far and what I had to give back, and it made me feel more confident and responsible. So I was already sold on the concept, but I met Gavin online to chat about what he wanted to achieve, and he explained that he really just wanted me to tell everybody else about what he was doing. And again, it was one of those days of back-to-back team meetings, typing up notes and actions for the evening, swapping from rural affairs to healthcare to casework. But this programme, Gavin, and the energy around it stood out, and I had to see it for myself. So I arranged to meet with him and some of the young people involved up at Kinmiley's. I spoke with a few of the young people, some of whom had left the programme the year before but took the opportunity of coming to speak to me to come back and be reunited with their mentees. I was so taken aback by that. I was expecting to meet the current cohort. This was a beautiful sunny day, and those teenagers could have been down the pitches, up at the retail park, just lying in bed playing Fortnite. But instead, they came to Charleston Academy to make sure that I knew how good this programme is and to see their old nursery partners. I was told about how one little girl cried and cried the last day of the programme because she didn't want to say goodbye. I could feel the emotion in the room that day as I heard about them reuniting just before I arrived. Another mentor shared that the parents of his mentee had sought him out and thanked him for whatever it was that he did to make their little girl come out of her shell. The programme leaders explained that one of the quieter girls there would have been too nervous to speak to me before she took part in this programme, and she smiled and she agreed. She said it had changed everything. Both age groups bloomed with the belief that the programme leaders had in them and from the knowledge that they can build these relationships, learn from each other and be of value to the world. And what really came across as we sat around that table talking and laughing was that the teachers who helped lead and organise this programme just blended together with the young leaders. They had worked together. It wasn't a top-down instruction, it was a partnership. And I could see the way that the young people were carrying themselves as a result of that. At the end of my visit, we posed for a photo, as usual. It was a normal MSP visit photo, everybody standing like this with their hands clasped, looking polite, and then one of the young people pulled out their phone and took a selfie. And that's the photo that I used for my social media post about the visit, because that's the one that captures the energy and the joy of the day, where they explained to me how special this all is, which just shows what a difference it makes when the young people do something for themselves. We know that intergenerational work produces results. We know that young people with adverse childhood experience need a push, need encouragement, need opportunities to discover the amazing things about themselves that the world has told them aren't there. We know that this works, and I think it would be a very sensible, successful move if the Scottish Government considers seriously how it can support and explore how it can expand the work of Growing Together. Now, Gavin is a busy man. He's been down in Westminster sharing his successes, and he's working with even more schools who want to join up and be part of this. But I'm sure that he could find some time in his very busy diary to help out the Minister and make sure that Scotland leads the way. If we want to tackle the attainment gap, if we want more young people in positive destinations, if we want them to be genuinely involved in their communities and feel responsibility to it, this is not an opportunity that we can ignore. So I will leave it with a question that Gavin shared with me. He said, "We're continuing to see a positive impact in both our nursery and community programmes for children and young people. Parents, teachers and young people ask, why is this not in more schools across Scotland?" Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Roddick. We now move to the open debate. I call first Ros McCall, followed by Karen Adam. Around 4 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and I want to start by thanking Emma Roddick for using her members' business today to bring forward this issue for debate into the Chamber. It's one I feel very passionately about, as she'll know, and I really appreciate her bringing that. Growing Together, I really want to first of all just say categorically that we thank them for the work they do to support children overcoming trauma and adversity. And to find out that they're working with 15 schools and have paired over 2,000 young people with over 2,200 toddlers over the last 7 years is a monumental amount of work and should be applauded. And we've already heard from Emma Roddick herself in her submission that what Growing Together programme has done for so many young people. This national initiative in Scotland focused on improving outcomes for babies and infants who are affected by adversity in their earliest years. And as I've already stated, anyone who's listened to my contributions over the last 4 years will know just how important this issue is to me. And yes, I'm going to go personal. When I adopted my daughters, I was told about the issues surrounding attachment disorder and the necessity of reaching certain milestones in brain development for ongoing cognitive growth and physical health throughout life. And it was put to me like this: every milestone met is a brick in the wall of life. Miss one out, and every brick laid on top of that gap is unstable and insecure. So when a baby is born, it's amazing just how important every development milestone actually is. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going back a step from the work that Growing Together do. Everything that seems minor and insignificant is actually essential. And something as simple as holding a baby makes a massive difference. A newborn that is not held enough is more likely to have stunted growth, poor weight gain, and a weaker immune system. Touch is essential for emotional and physical development, and touch promotes vital brain connections, growth hormones, and ability to make bonds with other people. So a child in early years that grows up without touch has a significantly harder life than one that grows up with it. Most newborns are well versed in hearing as they hear from the mother from inside the womb, but if they're born into an environment where they're not spoken to, then they're more likely to suffer setbacks in language, communication, social emotional skills and speech delays. Now, all that makes sense, But did you know that they're also less likely to be able to forming thoughts? And a child that grows up in a home where they're not softly spoken to is more likely to be unable to learn or retain knowledge than somebody that grows up with that. So much of the nurturing in early years is essential for a purposeful and a productive life. And the reason I'm mentioning all of this is Growing Together state in their programme it's rooted in the growing body of evidence that the first 1,000 days of a child's life are critical to their development, and that delay or any inconsistency in decision-making during that period can have long-lasting consequences. 1,000 days is just 2 years, 9 months. It's just over 2 years. Decisions have to be made faster because with every week that goes by, valuable development is being lost. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm speaking about this because their programme aims to improve early identification of risk for babies and infants, strengthening multi-agency working across health, social work, justice and children's hearing system, reduce delay and drift in decision-making, particularly in cases involving care and permanence, and ensuring that babies' lived experiences and development needs are properly understood and represented. And this is timely, because I can't argue with a single one of those requests. And with the progression of the Children Care Experience and Service Planning Scotland Bill going through Parliament, we have an opportunity to make advancements on these asks. And I sincerely request from the Minister that we do that in this regard. So, as the briefing from Growing Together programme states, and I was just one line, babies are not simply small children, and we've only got 2 years to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms McCall. I now call Karen Adam to be followed by Davy Russell. Around 4 minutes. Ms Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And firstly, I want to congratulate Emma Roddick for bringing this debate to the Chamber. And I'm absolutely delighted to be able to speak in it, because isn't this exactly what members' business is for? Shining a light on work that is genuinely changing lives, but oftentimes it just doesn't get the attention that they actually deserve. And I'll be honest, when I first read the Growing Together information and what it actually does, that pairing young people with toddlers in nurseries so that a young person can become a mentor, I thought, you know, this is just such a simple idea, but it's really brilliant, because we're not just helping young people in a way that we sometimes, you know, as adults talk about, where we're stepping in and helping them fix themselves, telling them what to do, telling them what's wrong with them and you know, why they can't progress forward. But this is actually about handing that responsibility to the young people and saying, we trust you. Having them be needed. It's a lot, it is massive, but it's actually genius. So I do want to say a proper well done to everybody involved in making this happen. The Growing Together team themselves, the staff and facilitators on the ground, and the schools and nursery staff who make space for this and keep it going week after week. And I know that's not easy when you're already juggling everything that you have to do looking after nursery children. And maybe I should declare an interest, but I used to chair a local play group, so I've got a little bit of an insight there. I know what goes into it. Most of all, though, I want to say well done to the young people who have stepped up and given it a go. The wee toddlers who have benefited from it as well, because they're the ones that are at the heart of this. They're at the core. And the motion talks about young people who are dealing with a lot. Poverty, mental health challenges, trauma, and everything else on top of that, living with pressure in these modern times. And I don't think any of us can pretend that we don't see that in our own communities as well. I see that in my constituency of Banffshire and Buchan Coast. Loads of young folk with really good hearts, good kids, but they're just carrying a bit too much themselves. And maybe they've just had a few years of being told what they're doing wrong most of the time, and what, well, we tend to say as adults, prepare them for what they might be at risk of and how they're falling behind, instead of being positive with them and giving them an opportunity to shine, exactly what this does. So this is something I'll certainly be bringing back to my constituency and talking about. I also understand mentoring toddlers a little bit. I've had 6 children, so I know exactly what kind of patience that takes. You've got to show up, you've got to be kind, you have to be consistent. And that's a lot to learn at a young age as well, because believe you me, toddlers find any loophole that they can, but they're also good fun. But this is not just good for the wee ones, of course, it's good for all involved in this. Building confidence in a true, authentic way, not confidence that's put on to mask, to provide society with a way of showing up, but actual true transformation, that authentic transformation within a person, and that real confidence is revolutionary. So this is pertinent, I think, to everybody in this chamber. So I want to thank once again Emma Roddick for bringing this forward, and I hope that the Scottish Government does look seriously at this to see how we can roll this across the rest of Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Adam. And I now call final speaker in the open debate, Davy Russell. Again, around 4 minutes. Mr Russell.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I must thank Emma Roddick for bringing this debate to Parliament. Can I join colleagues in their praise of the initiative and hope that we can see it probably trialled in Lanarkshire at some point, because I think it's a really good initiative. Not to hark back to old-fashioned ideals for the sake of it, but it used to be that giving less well than behaved teenagers their first taste of responsibility would often be the making of them. I think most of us here, if not all, would agree that we will all know someone where that actually applies to. The trouble is our public services pathways don't do that. Anything short of a high school, university, graduate job is seen as subpar, and that's just wrong. But a programme like this really turns the pyramid on its head. It's a point finger at every single young person and asks, what are you going to offer the world? What happens if you're forced to think about well-being of someone that isn't you? As I mentioned in the Chamber last week, we do have a problem in our economy, with 1 in 6 young people aged between 20 and 24 being out of education, out of employment, out of training. So I'm pleased to join Emma Roddick in congratulating the Growing Together, and the Scottish Government absolutely should consider how it can do more and expand on this great initiative in the future time. But more than that, the Scottish Government should consider how the entire ethos of Growing Together can be applied to its education through the employment pathway. The first question shouldn't be what support do you need, and it should be what can you offer your community, your economy, your family or your society. And if you're looking after a toddler, it's tremendous. We must expand the criteria to what is deemed to be a successful education and employment journey. And most importantly, we must fearlessly, unashamedly trust young people with the opportunity to contribute to society, and that's what I take away from this.
Thank you, Mr Russell. I now call Natalie Donennis, Minister, to wind up the debate around about 7 minutes.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'd really like to thank Ms Roddick for bringing this debate to the Chamber and for highlighting the excellent work that has been done on the Growing Together nursery programme. And I actually resonate a lot with what Ms Roddick said, and I'm so glad that this programme is helping to eliminate those feelings of not having a place or a purpose, because every single child in this country deserves to feel special. I'd also like to thank members for their really heartfelt contributions in today's debate. I think it's been really terrific to hear about the unique approach that the programme takes and the clear benefits to young people as the providers of support rather than the recipients. And I'd really like to convey a heartfelt thanks to everyone involved. Now, members have already touched on some of the ways that this has helped to support young people. Young people supported through the programme have said that it's led to a surge in their confidence, their mental health, their respect for others, helping them find skills and qualities that they didn't know they had. And it's heartening to hear this feedback, which shows the growth in self-esteem and resilience the programme is enabling for our young people. Programmes such as Growing Together, I think, demonstrate the really powerful role that positive, supportive relationships play in shaping children and young people's behaviour, well-being and engagement with learning. And by giving young people the opportunity to take on responsibility, to build empathy and form nurturing relationships with younger children, this work helps to deliver the social and emotional skills that underpin positive behaviour in school and beyond. This strengths-based preventative approach aligns very closely with our focus on promoting positive relationships, supporting emotional regulation and addressing the underlying causes of disengagement, rather than responding only when behaviour reaches crisis points. I think it shows how relational, community-based programmes can really complement the work of schools and contribute to calmer, more inclusive learning environments and support our young people to be successful learners, confident individuals, responsible citizens and effective contributors. And I'm actually really interested in this point because I think somebody might have said or I read that this was very helpful in terms of young people who were quite disengaged with school, in terms of bringing them back in. And I think that's really important. We talk a lot in this chamber about attainment, about ensuring that children are able to attend their school. I've spoken a lot about the virtual school network, but I'm very interested in understanding more about approaches that can help with that too, over and above that. So we're very pleased to have provided over £800,000 to support the nursery programme through our place-based community-led regeneration funding over a number of years. Now, I think there's been some talk around, the disadvantaged young people, and I think it's important, before I touch on a couple of other points in the debate, just to highlight some of the ways that we are or a number of the steps that we are taking to provide wider support to children and young people. So we're continuing to invest over £1 billion every year in 1140 hours of high-quality funded ELC for all 3- and 4-year-olds and eligible twos. In last week's budget, we announced a universal breakfast club offer for primary school children in Scotland to be delivered by August 2027. We also announced new investment to expand after-school and holiday clubs for primary school children, again supporting parents with wraparound care options and providing an important range of activities for children. Now, in relation to Ms McCall's points, and I absolutely agree with her, I think, sometimes we talk about extremely emotive subjects in this Parliament, and that is one of them. We want to ensure that our youngest children are getting the support they need to reach those developmental milestones, and equally that the families are getting the support they need to be able to deliver that. We're taking a number of actions through whole family support and whole family wellbeing and all the preventative work I talk regularly about with Ms McCall and any other member who will listen to me. But on top of that, there's a number of other actions. We published our Early Years Speech, Language and Communication Action Plan in December. That sets out our preventative strategic approach, building on existing strengths, addressing gaps in support and placing families and communities at the heart of this work. We're also delivering the game-changing Scottish Child Payment, which is forecast to be supporting the families of around 330,000 children next year. Since this benefit launched, we've paid out more than £3 billion, and of course we've just expanded this to £40 for children under 1. And in relation to the Children Care and Care Experience Service Scotland Bill, making provisions to support babies is an absolute priority. There are already provisions within that, but I am hoping to extend that further at stage 2, and I will be meeting with Ms McCall to discuss some of that very soon. So, as I've said, I really am very interested in this programme and the points that have been made. I'm a big believer in intergenerational work. I think this for all age groups. Generally speaking, it has been more younger people and elderly people, so I'm really interested in it for this age group because, again, just taking a slightly personal stint, I know my own 2 children, they don't have much access to teens or older children, and I can even see how this would benefit them so much in terms of that intergenerational work. So, as I said to Ms Roddick earlier on in the debate, I'd be really grateful if she could send me more information in this programme, and I'll certainly take the points that members have raised raised in terms of looking at the future for this programme into consideration. So I'd really just like to finish again by congratulating everyone involved in Growing Together. It is enabling our children and young people to develop skills, values and resilience needed to build a brighter future. I'm sure that Growing Together will continue to build on the superb work done so far, and I wish them every success in the future. Just want to thank Ms Roddick again for bringing this debate to the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I suspend this meeting of Parliament until 2 o'clock.